Be confident, be bold, be authentic, but don't forget to take action. This is Ordinary to Badass, where our stories empower women to step into the spotlight of their own lives and pursue what they're truly passionate about. It's time to step into the arena and become more than just extraordinary. It's time to become a badass with your host, Marie Sonneman.
Welcome to Ordinary to Badass, episode number 305. In this episode, you are going to hear from Dr. Priyanka Venugopal, and she is an advanced certified deep dive coach and board certified ObGyn physician, and she is the host of the popular podcast Weight Loss for Unstoppable Moms and the founder of the Unstoppable Mom Brain, in which she is an intimate group coaching program for working moms who want to reach their ideal weight and live a lighter life. So this episode with Dr. Priyanka is so good. So it's just in time. Mother's Day was just yesterday, and I thought, man, this is the perfect time for this. Dr. Priyanka and I talk about being powerful, not just being powerful, but being confident. And then we also talk about a new way for weight loss. And it's weight loss not just involving like how you eat and doing a certain diet, but it's a different kind of weight loss with your mind and your body. So you're going to want to listen, hear that, because most of us women, there's usually, maybe not everybody, right? But a lot of women have body issues or weight. They think they need to be a different weight than they are. So thought, it was very insightful what she had to say about that. And then she also talked about looking for your siren song and how to be curious about it. So definitely listen to this episode. And before we get there, yesterday was Mother's Day. And you could probably hear my dog snoring in the background. But yesterday was Mother's Day. I really hope that you got to enjoy it. You got some time to relax and have fun with the fam and really self-care. Just time for you to do something for yourself. Let other people do something for you because you do so much throughout the year. All right. With that, let's get to the episode. Welcome to Ordinary to Badass. Whether you're ordinary or badass, I'm glad you're here. Today's guest is Dr. Priyanka Venugopal. Dr. Priyanka, thank you so much for being here. Excited to have you on the show.
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
So before we go any further, I've got to ask you, do you consider yourself ordinary or badass?
I absolutely consider myself a badass now. This would not have been the case if you'd asked me a couple of years ago, but badass absolutely right now.
Love it.
Yeah.
So when did that change for you? Was it one instance that made you feel like a badass and changed your mindset, or was it a series of events?
I think it was absolutely a series of events. If, I'm being totally honest, I kind of feel like I have felt ordinary my whole life. And I've definitely been that person, kind of the perfectionist, the young girl who would always raise her hand in class, wanted to get called on, wanted the A. I really strived a lot for a lot of external validation. And I think a lot of it was because I wanted to feel more than ordinary, but I didn't. And I think that this is something that, I'm sure a lot of your listeners might resonate if they're women and if they are high achievers, that this is a common trend. We feel really ordinary. We want to do big things. We want to have impact or be productive either at work or at home. And we keep chasing and we keep chasing and chasing. And somehow that is not where badass comes from. It happens really, I think, from really changing our perspective of how we think about ourselves. And that was, for me, my journey. About a few years ago, I was practicing as a board certified ObGyn, and I weighed a little over 200 pounds, and I felt very ordinary despite having an extraordinary life on paper. I had a supportive partner, 2 kids, again, a practice and patience that I truly, truly respected and loved. And yet, despite this extraordinary life on paper, I felt very ordinary, and it showed. I felt really heavy mentally, and it led me to eat and drink and scroll a lot, and it created kind of this lived experience that again, it felt very ordinary to me. And I think there came a point for me a few years ago. I was driving to work. This is when I was probably at my heaviest. My daughter was about 7 months old at this point, pumping while driving. This was like the jam at the time, pumping while driving, because again, I'm a multitasker. And I remember just thinking, I have worked too hard to be feeling ordinary, to be feeling just okay. And that was, I think, when I discovered coaching. I discovered a podcast similar to this that inspired me to explore maybe there's more available for me. Maybe I could become more. And that was when my journey started, really in self discovery, exploration, and absolutely coaching, which is when I started to take those steps to badassery, is how I like to call it.
Love it. So I can't wait to
Yeah.
dig in more. But first, will you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So I am now I'm a board certified OBGYN by training, and now I am a body and health coach with specifically for high achieving working moms. I help women who are really confident in their life start to feel more powerful. I help them lose weight without a calculator. And we really employ a lot of strategies, skills, and techniques that free women from calculators. I think that high achievers are really used to counting points and calories and macros, and they have their spreadsheets and meal plans. And I'm going to tell you, if it really worked, it would have worked. And so I'm really here now to coach these women to release the numbers, release the calculators, release the counting, and really using mind and body skills and techniques, science backed strategies to lose weight without counting calories and also feel more powerful in their real working mom lives, right? So we don't have to change your kid, change your partner, change work for you to feel more powerful. If you learn how to feel more powerful, not surprisingly, you're not going to overeat. And it's going to be one of the gateways to feeling better in your life.
So, how do we start to feel more powerful?
Yeah, so I think this is really such a good question. I think it first starts with separating the difference between feeling confident and powerful. So, a lot of times, especially for women, we feel really confident in certain skills. Like, I feel really confident at work, maybe as a team leader, maybe I feel really confident in certain areas of my life, but I don't feel powerful in certain areas of my life. And I think it's important, really, first and foremost, to identify the difference between confidence and powerful. And the first step for me, at least for my journey, was I had to really see eyes wide open without judgment and without kind of any shame or blame, really with a curious, like scientific lens. Where in my life was I feeling not powerful and why? So for me, a lot of it was I felt really not powerful around my schedule. Like, as an OBGYN, I was getting called into the office or I was on call. So I could get called in the middle of the night for a delivery. So I didn't feel very powerful around my time with my kids. My son, who's now 7, was 3 at the time when I really started a lot of this journey. And I can't control him, turns out. Like, even though I'm his mom, it turns out I can't control a toddler. And so I really didn't feel very powerful as a mom. I felt confident, like I know I can take care of him and feed him well, but I didn't feel powerful. With my partner, like he would say things and I would get super annoyed. And I'm like, why can't he just behave the way I want him to behave? Then I would get to feel so much better in this relationship, right? So I didn't feel powerful as a wife. So this is, I think, really important. The first step to becoming powerful is to really first identify, where am I not feeling powerful? And where have I been abdicating responsibility to my kid, to my partner, to my task list, to my calendar to create that feeling of power for me? I think it's really becoming super aware of that. And the hard thing here is to become aware without the judgment, right? Because so often we look at it and we're like, oh, I should know more. I should be better at this by now. I should have figured this out by now. And my answer to that is always, says who? Because we never got a manual on how to be powerful. We got a manual at a really young age on how to be, fall in line and listen to the rules and, wipe your tears and put a smile on your face and don't be too big, don't be too loud, right? These are the rules that we got when we were kids. So it's not surprising that we don't feel powerful as grown-ups.
Yeah, it's so interesting because we have all these rules and it's like, oh, they say we should do this or they say we should. Well, who's they? Like, just because it's like a society standard or we think it's something we should do, it doesn't mean that that's really in our best interest. So something that you
Absolutely.
something that you talked about was reclaim kind of where in your life do you not feel powerful, and then you talked about kind of reclaiming your time a little bit. But how do you start to do that? Like you talked about work. If you have to be on
Yeah.
call and you have to go and you really don't have any control of that, how do you start to
Yes.
reclaim that or feel powerful in that area?
Oh, that's so good. So you use the word control, which is the key, right? So I think that sometimes, and I know, and I will always say, ask me how I know, because I have done it. I have done it in every flavor permutation. I used to think if I could control my time, my calendar, my kid, my partner, then I would feel powerful, right? Then I would feel the feeling that I want, which is a strong feeling. And it turns out that I can't always control those things. Like I can't control my kid or the words my partner says, and I cannot always control my schedule. So with the time example, this is a really good one. I, in advance decided to join a practice which had a specific call schedule. They had specific office hours. So I knew exactly what I signed up for and I made an agreement. Right. So I came into this place of work because I, number one, loved the partners, I respected the community, and I really liked the schedule that they gave me. So I made an agreement because I'm like, this is a salary, right? This is how I'm going to get paid as an OBGYN. And I signed up and I agreed to it. The next step for that for me was I had to really catch where I was feeling a lot of resistance to the schedule that I had agreed to. So for example, if I got called at 2 in the morning for a delivery, my very first thoughts used to be for a really long time, oh, this is so annoying. I can't believe I have to go in. Like, oh, this is like, oh, I wish it wasn't 2 in the morning, right? A lot of thoughts that created a feeling of annoyance and frustration and resistance to the reality of what was. So, what I mean by that is, I had signed up, I made an agreement that I'm on call, right? It's like part of the agreement. And yet, I told a story that really disempowered me at 2 a.m. And so for me, with something like time, I think that one of the things that was really impactful was for me to really recognize and remember, wait a second, I chose this and this was why I chose it. So coming back to, I signed up for this because first of all, I love delivering babies. Like, can we just remember that for a moment? I know it's 2 in the morning, but like I truly love what I do. Remember? So it's like these subtle and small shifts. Like, wait a second, we had signed up for this. We are absolutely like we love what we do. It's 2 in the morning, you're tired, and also like you're the best person to go handle this right now. These small shifts, the way that I told the story about my time, is how I started to feel more empowered around the schedule that I had. And I think that it's just important to say also that that doesn't mean we don't ever go back and revisit an agreement, right? So I might have made an agreement and I might have loved it at the time. I think another thing that's important to know is we can always go back and change our mind. I can go back and say, you know what, actually, this agreement's not working out for me. This schedule's not working out for me. That's powerful too. And I think it's important to know kind of what your personal work is.
So I think it's interesting that you examined your thoughts around it and really tried to say, okay, is this affecting how I'm feeling? Is this affecting or changing so that I'm not feeling powerful? Can you talk a little bit about our thoughts and feelings affect the outcome that we're getting or the results we're getting?
Absolutely. So this was actually the breath of fresh air that I didn't know I needed a few years ago, which is where a lot of my personal transformation from ordinary to badass came from, is really understanding that humans are driven by the think, feel, act cycle. This is not new. It's like cognitive behavioral therapy for, psychology for decades. It is just a concept that all of our results, whether it's your results on the scale, results in your life, results as a mom, as a partner, any result that you could ever want, is created by is a culmination of actions that we take. But the question is always, where do our actions come from? Where do our behaviors come from? They always come from a thought and a feeling. So the think, feel, act cycle really helps us explore, where is my disempowerment coming from? The feeling of disempowered, it's not coming from my schedule, my kid, the scale, the food in the pantry, my partner. The feeling of disempowerment always comes from our thoughts. It comes from a story that we're telling about the circumstances in our life, which means we don't actually have to control all the circumstances to feel powerful. We can start to get control over our thinking. And to me, that was like when I really understood that and learned that, And this really happened a lot when I invested in coaching, hired my own coach who helped me uncover and figure out what my thoughts actually were. I think that that was when I started to see, wait a second, I don't have to control my kid or my time or my partner. Wait a second, I can actually feel so much better. I can feel stronger even when like things are going wrong all over. I can still feel strong because I can have control over my thinking about all these things. And then I can feel powerful, and then I can take action that will create powerful results.
So when you start to feel like you want to control everything, or like, okay, this isn't going the way, this isn't going, they're not doing what I want them to do, is that when you then start to examine your thoughts, or what do you do then?
Yeah. Yeah, so that's so good because I think of that as like a little siren song. So our action line, like the way that we're showing up our behaviors, I think of them as like little indicator lights. And it's like little siren songs. So when I find myself really nagging my kid or really coming down hard on him or being irritable with my husband or planning and then planning again and then like another fresh plan, like when I find myself in over planning mode, I'm like, oh, this is interesting. This behavior is so interesting. What am I feeling right now? And 99% of the time, I'm feeling some flavor of disempowered. I might be feeling inadequate. I might be feeling doubt. Maybe I'm nervous or stressed, right? So I'm feeling some flavor of an emotion that I'm trying to avoid. And my old habits, my old perfectionist brain, the way that I grew up is like, let me just plan more, control more, do more to try to solve that feeling. So nowadays, really, I think, one of the big steps that I like to take is when I find myself in a behavior and I become really aware of it, I'm like, oh, this is just a little siren song. I must be feeling some flavor of disempowered. And I think that it's really important to catch that softly, like catch when you find yourself in those moments. Again, I think women are very used to kind of coming down a little bit hard on themselves. They're like, I can't believe that I'm doing this again. And that if that worked again, listen, if that works for you, you keep doing it. But I would say, if I'm going to take a guess, that doesn't work to change behavior. Catching it with a soft, like, I think of it like when you're catching a softball and you have a mitt, you want to like have your mitt come back with you, right? You want to catch that ball softly. You don't want to just like come at it like you're a brick wall. It's going to, number one, hurt your hand, and number two, you're likely going to drop the ball. So I think about when you catch yourself in a behavior as a siren song, think of it like catching it softly, like with a baseball mitt or softball mitt, and you're like bringing it back with a soft lens. I think it is so much more powerful to become aware when you're taking actions from a disempowered place.
So I think that it can be hard, especially once you start to go down that rabbit hole and you're just like beating yourself up and it's like one thing after the next, and it just tends to keep going. What do you do to break the cycle when, you're down that rabbit hole and you want to be soft with yourself, and then it starts, at least I've done this in the past, like, gosh darn it, be soft with yourself, quit, and you start on
Yeah.
that. How do you break that cycle?
Yeah, I think that that's really good. So I think, first of all, before we can ever jump to what to do, before we can jump to, how do you break out of a cycle? It's so important to catch, like, I wonder what I have been thinking that's been driving me to get back into the cycle. Every single habit, I share this a lot with my clients. And, I think that this is something that every human needs to hear. Any habit that you have, any cycle that you find yourself, because a cycle implies it's a habitual behavior, any cycle that you find yourself in was always born out of reason. So listen, like even my habit of overeating in the pantry was born out of a reason. If you're over drinking or you find yourself scrolling or like binging on the Netflix, that habit came out of a reason. And so what we have to do before we can jump to solving the cycle or breaking the habit is we have to come back to understanding, where did this behavior come from and how did it make so much sense? And I think that for women, especially, if we think of our brains as our greatest tool, our greatest asset, we start to unlock solutions from that place too. One of the most common things I used to see when I was an OBGYN in practice is women would come, particularly postpartum, and anytime they would describe like a fall, a fail, a mistake, maybe like they forgot to give a permission slip for their older kid, they just had a new baby, they would refer to their brains as like mom brain, in like a negative way, right? Mom brain, I made a mistake, I was so late, like, or I forgot that play date, I forgot that permission slip, mom brain. And it was so fascinating to me to see how common I heard it was, so common. with friends, at the park. This is how we would refer to ourselves with any fail or mistake, mom brain. And actually, that was how I even decided to name my business The Unstoppable Mom Brain, was because I wanted to change the narrative for how women think of their brains. If you're in a cycle, if you've been making the same mistakes again and again, if you have the same behavior habits again and again, I want you to know your brain created those habits because it was brilliantly trying to do something for you, and your brain is also the solution to really solving that. So we need to uncover, why did we have that habit to begin with?
Yeah, and I think it's important because it's like sometimes we're saying things and
Mm,
we're bringing it to fruition ourselves because we keep saying it and we start to believe it. Like, oh, I don't have to remember because I have mom brain, or
absolutely.
sometimes people will call themselves crazy, and it's like, don't speak that into existence. Don't make that a truth. Like, it doesn't have to be a truth.
Yes, one of my favorite quotes, I'm not going to get the whole quote right. It's by Bruce Lee, where he says, words have meaning. The word spelling, like spelling, is a spell, right? So your words have meaning. And when you say things out loud like that, or even think them, your body is listening to that. It's like, I almost think about every time you say, I'm so crazy, or mom brain, or I can't believe myself, there I go again. I'm so terrible, I'm a terrible mom, or I can't believe, like, fill in your flavor. Your body is feeling the effects of that. It releases actual peptides in your body. Imagine, like, cortisol is just one example. It's a stress hormone that gets released. It affects every cell of your body. Imagine you're bathing the cells of your body in that energy. And I think that it is absolutely one of the things that is important to rewire your brain with new habits. We can't be so critical of our current habits, our current patterns, if we want to change them. We have to come in again, it's like that curious lens with how to catch them, how to understand them to be able to change them.
Yes, I started to write down something that you said, and I feel like I didn't even catch the whole thing because you said, imagine you were bathing the cells. Do you remember what the
Oh
rest of
yeah,
that
it's
was?
like the way, so yeah, I think about it like, imagine that you have a thought like, I can't believe I gained a pound. I can't believe I overate the snacks in the pantry. There I go again. How do you feel? Like, if somebody says
Not
that, I would
good.
feel, number one, like terrible. I would feel so defeated and discouraged and like maybe even stressed, especially if I really want to lose weight. Because most women that want to lose weight have probably been trying for a while. So you feel discouraged, defeated, stressed. I should imagine that that feeling is a compilation of certain peptides and hormones in your body. So the feeling that you have now, the defeat, the discouragement, the stress, it's not coming out of thin air. It's not coming out of the universe. You're having a release of certain like there's a chemical cascade happening in your body for your body to feel those emotions. So I'm almost imagining, like, imagine you're bathing the cells of your body in defeat, discouraged, stress, right? It's like, if you really visualize that experience for your body, she's listening to you. Every time you say something like that, she's listening to you. And the trouble with this, I mean, of course, from a mindset perspective, is it creates more overwhelm, it creates more stress. That's the reason we ever quit. It's the only reason we ever kind of quit on the plan. I'll start again tomorrow. It's the only reason we kind of stay in that cycle. But the other thing it does from a chemical perspective is when our body experiences stress, she will drive us to overeat. She'll think like there's a lion outside the cave, it's coming. She doesn't know the difference between, like, you talking negatively to yourself, or having like an email disaster, or there being a bear or a lion that's about to eat you. She just experiences, okay, there's stress happening right now. We need to solve this problem. Maybe we should eat and store resources so that I can be safe later. Right? So we have to understand the impact of the thoughts we have, because it's driving us, right? The think, feel, act cycle. Just catch when we're feeling defeated, discouraged, and stressed. Like, how do we actually show up? I mean, for me, I quit every single time. I'm like, micro quit after micro quit. If I look back at like the breadcrumbs, the trail that I have left of all of the quits that I have ever had, it's a lot. And if I really go back and trace the origin of any quit, any micro quit I have ever had in the 40 years that I have been on this planet, it has always come from a flavor of disempowerment. Always. Which is so good to catch. I mean, I'm saying this with a smile. If you can see me, I'm like, it is so good to catch. That feeling of disempowerment is the reason that I have had every micro quit in my life. How powerful is that? To see that. So good.
Right, right. Yeah, and then it's like sometimes, we'll have a negative thought pop into our head, and it's just maybe it's triggered by a past experience or
Yeah.
just whatever it is, and then that can just send you to start thinking about other things. And it was like it was a simple thing, and then all of a sudden you're down that rabbit hole again and thinking
Right.
thoughts. So yeah, it is important, like you said, to pay attention to your thoughts and what you're thinking. Can you talk a little
Yeah.
bit about your thoughts and how that connects to your weight?
Oh, absolutely. So I think for me, I kind of, and I think so many women, if you've tried to lose weight, you've probably tried, again, lots of things, maybe counting points and calories, maybe you downloaded the apps, you try the latest fad diet. I know I've tried. If you look at my shelf of planners and apps that I've downloaded, it's like every single one, and it would always work, right? So anytime I tried counting calories, points, or macros, it worked while I did it. Like I remember for my wedding, I was eating those 100-calorie oatmeal packets, and I went to the gym like 5 to 6 days a week. I was on it. I was like, for the wedding, I have to look better than I look right now. We have to take a photo that day. Like I was on it. But the day after the wedding, guess what? I didn't want to eat the 100-calorie oatmeal packets anymore. I was like, this is not how I want to live the rest of my life. And so, not surprisingly, I had picked a strategy, counting points, calories, and macros, that wasn't sustainable. And because of that, because we often, from our very old diet brain perspective, we think we have to count and measure to lose weight. We don't actually understand that, again, where did the habit of overeating come from? We don't solve that reason. So, all of these old strategies that you hear about, every diet, whole 30, keto, no carbs, all of those things might work if you did them forever. But if you really get back to the root of why are you ever overeating? Why are you eating if your body's not hungry? If you start to solve that question, start to answer that question, you will start to lose weight with so much more ease. And so for me, a lot of it was, I need to eat perfectly. I thought I have to eat I have to really limit the carbs, and I'm vegetarian. So I'm like, okay, this is going to be really hard because I love carbs. I love carbs. I have to limit the carbs. I have to count the calories. I have to go to the gym. I had a very full plan that felt really like a lot of things that I had to do, and I have to do them all perfectly. So that was the second piece of it. I have to do all of these things. First of all, it sounds like a drag. Second of all, I have to do them all perfectly. I was saying perfectly, like Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh. It's like, oh man, I have to do all of this to lose weight. I would be able to kind of muscle through using willpower for short bursts of time, especially after New Year's or my birthday. I'm like, yes, I'm on it. This is the year. And so I would be on it for about a week or maybe a month if I was really on it. I'd lose some weight. And then, of course, it wasn't sustainable. It would never be perfect because, again, we're human. And then because I have this perfectionist tendency, see, it's not perfect, might as well throw the whole thing away. I would have a micro quit, right? So if I didn't do it perfectly, I would go back to a feeling of defeat, discouraged, stress, right? Do you see the pattern, right? If I didn't do it perfectly, I would feel a very big emotion, and that drove me to quit. And I think that what was so important for me to discover the time that I really made a shift, and now what I do with my clients is actually, what if you didn't need a calculator? What if you didn't have to use calories in, calories out to lose weight? What if you could actually learn how to connect with your body, actually figure out when you're actually hungry, when you're actually not, and give your body high quality foods that makes you a fat burner? What if you actually loved the way you ate? What if it wasn't a drag? And what if it didn't have to be perfect all the time? And I think, maybe somebody hearing me is like, Priyanka, that sounds like too good to be true. And I want to tell you it's not too good to be true because you have to work. You have to do the work to rewire your brain, to change your thinking, to get out of these old habits and norms. To do this, you actually have to do the work and be consistent with it. But this is what has exploded results for me. Is I lost over 60 pounds, not counting a point or calorie and not going to the gym. And I don't say this in a way to make it sound like it's too good to be true. Again, you really have to do the work. You have to be willing to change things and play and experiment and evaluate. And honestly, I think that when I released that perfectionism, I'm going to make a mistake. I might go off the plan. I might gain a couple of pounds. I went heavy on the margaritas. I ate that, okay. Instead of me quitting in that moment, this is the key step. Instead of ever quitting in that moment, for me to notice, okay, this is defeat. This is discouraged. This is stress. We're not going to quit. Let's just get so curious. Okay. It's okay. It's not a problem. I wonder what happened here. Catching it, right? With that soft mitt. I wonder what happened here. And now we get to powerfully tweak and move on. Instead of regressing and going backwards and gaining it all back and quitting, we actually make a powerful tweak and we move forward. I mean, that's how I lost the 60 pounds. It definitely wasn't perfect. I had many, as I call them Dorito dinners. I sometimes have Doritos for dinner. It's like amazing. And Netflix binge and have my glass of wine. Will the scale be up tomorrow? Yes. Okay. Now what? Let's move on. I just think it's so important to know that, and I like to be an example of this. Is what I share on my, on my podcast and on Instagram all the time. I'm sharing my real life stories, my real life fails, my real life everything, because it's so important to know that you can be at your goal weight, you can maintain it with ease, and it does not have to be perfect. That's like the most powerful thing ever.
Yeah, and what came across to me when you were saying that is, like, when we're trying to be on a diet and we're trying to do something perfect, we're also trying to control it. And we're trying to make it like our way, like, oh, I'm going to control my weight, I'm going to control all this. And then that's more like a feeling like, like uptight or trying to fix everything. And then earlier, like how we're talking about feeling powerful, are you going to feel powerful over a diet if you have to control every single part of it and control every second of your life as you eat?
It's a really interesting, I've thought a lot about this, especially because of the work I do now as someone that helps women lose weight, is where this idea even came from, that we have to lose things to lose weight, right? I think that that's such a focus of diet culture, diet brain, is like we focus on what we cannot have. And when we do that, when our brain goes to all the things I'm not getting, all the things that I'm missing out on, we're going to feel lack and scarcity. Think about a feeling. And when you feel lack and scarcity for long enough, if you go back to like really primal, like think about just like a primal response to feeling lack and scarcity, you're going to overconsume at some point to fill the lack and scarcity, right? She's not going to give this to me again. I'm not allowed to have this. And so the one time that you maybe eat the Doritos or eat the thing, you're going to overeat them because you're trying to solve for your lack and scarcity. So that's when we get into a restriction and overindulgence cycle, simply because we're focusing on all the things we're not allowed to have, all the things we're not getting. And what I really do with my clients, and what I really love for women to focus on, is, wait a second, I have this goal. I want to lose weight. For me, it was 60 pounds. I want to lose weight, but really more important than that, I mean, this is like true. Yes, I definitely wanted to lose weight and I wanted to see the 3-digit number come down, but more than that, I wanted to feel better in my gut. I wanted my body to feel better. I wanted to have more energy. I wanted to be able to like run around, especially my son started like playing soccer, running around. It's like, I'm kind of like huffing and puffing after him. I'd like to not do that. I'd like to actually get to 90 and be able to bring groceries into my car without help. I would like to sleep better. I want more energy. So I had all of these results that I wanted. And I had to see, it's like remember we were discussing at the start, like I made a decision to do this job that had a 2 a.m. delivery. I have this goal that I want, and that means I'm going to make some changes. I could focus on the things I'm not going to have, but what would it look like if I could focus on all of the things I'm going to be having? And the agreement, I have this agreement with myself. It's I will only eat delicious things only. I refuse to eat anything that's not delicious. Personal agreement. Can you imagine if you made that agreement with yourself? I will never ever eat something that's gross, ever. That's my number one agreement. And my number two agreement is I will only eat when I'm actually hungry. It's incredibly freeing when you come into this new relationship. It's like, I'm not going to eat just because it's 12. I'm not going to not eat because I hit 600 calories. I'm not going to eat because of the macros and the carbs. I'm going to eat high quality foods that really feel good for my body. It's going to always be delicious, I promise. But I'm going to eat when I'm actually hungry. And that means, yeah, I'm going to say no to some things sometimes. Right? So like it feels so different though when we come into weight loss from that lens. Like I might have to say no to things. Like that's not a problem. I'm never deprived because, again, remember, I only eat foods I love. I'm always going to eat when I'm hungry. I promise. It just changes the way we think about hitting goal weight. And it's my argument is the only permanent, sustainable way to actually create results. You can count all the things and lose weight. It'll last like a minute or a year if you're really strict, really use a lot of willpower. It can last, but you're going to feel kind of miserable that way.
Yeah, and then it's like when it slides back, when you go the other way, then it seems you gain more weight than you were at in the first place. And so it's kind of a vicious cycle.
Because you were depriving yourself, right? It was like, see, she might deprive us again. Like, let's get it while we can. Why would we ever say that? Let's get it while we can.
Right.
If you had that alternative, right, which is what I was talking about, what I do with my clients, like if you actually thought about, wait a second, I only eat deliciously, nothing is ever off limits, but I'm going to eat deliciously. I'm going to treat my body well, right? So I might have like the cookie or the chips, but I'm like paying attention to my body. I'm like, remember my end goal? We really want to feel good. We want our gut to feel good. I have found when I eat a lot of Doritos, turns out my gut doesn't love that. Like my stomach actually hurts. I feel kind of bloated the next day. So I'm taking all of that into account now, right? It's not like Doritos are good or bad, or chips or popcorn or pizza is good or bad. I'm like, wait a second. When I eat this food in this way, my body doesn't actually love it. So now we have a different question. It's not yes or no. It's I wonder how much. I wonder how often. I wonder when, right? So the conversation totally changes and shifts.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting because I have a mentor, Kyle Cease, and he was talking about how everything in your life should be a 10. Really, we shouldn't accept
Mm.
things in our life that are below a 10. And so to start to think about that differently, but I had never thought about that in relationship to food either. So I think that's interesting. And just how
Yeah.
different our life would be if we surrounded ourselves by the things that we love.
Absolutely. I think women are really thinking about like we like portion out pleasure. We like measure out relaxation. We think we have to work more to earn a break. These are common trends that I see with high achievers. It's like I think of myself as the high achievers expert because I was that. I've literally gone through every permutation of this. Like we have to work harder to earn breaks. We have to portion out pleasure. If we have too much relaxation or pleasure, there's something that feels kind of unsafe about that because now I'm going down the slippery slope. If I do it a little bit, I'm probably going to go to the other side, right? We have so many things that hold us back from actually seeing like I could actually have a 10 out of 10 here. And maybe sometimes it's a 9 out of 10. That's okay. We're going to come back to a 10, right? So to me that's like so taking so much more power back, right? Coming back to really badassery, like really feeling a badass in your life. How would it feel to create that for yourself and to choose it on purpose and really do the work? I mean, I'm going to be honest, it takes work. So there's no way around that. It does not happen on its own. The universe is not going to drop it into your lap. That is how you go from ordinary to badass. You have to say, you know what? I am ready for more. I can see I've worked really hard my whole life, and I can feel myself at this edge where I want to break beyond it. And I will say, when you do this work, when you start to feel more like a badass, it trickles into every part of your life. You will feel better as a mom, as a wife, at work. I felt better. I felt more powerful as a physician. I was already confident as an OBGYN, but after really doing a lot of this work, I started feeling so much more powerful as a physician. It just changes the whole texture of your lived experience, which that's where the badass comes from.
I love that. So I know
Yeah.
we're winding down here, but there's something that I think
Yeah.
that I would love to talk about because I think it's important is eating healthy, changing the way we're doing things is hard. And sometimes just changing our mindset around it is hard. And I know that you have a 3-step process for changing your
Yeah.
habits. Can you share that with
Yeah.
us?
Absolutely. So I really like to think about any habit. You can plug any habit into this 3-step approach. So if it's for weight loss, you can really think about your habit of overeating. If it's for scrolling, for drinking, for productivity with your time. I like to think about any habit change require step one. Any habit change requires way more than a sticker chart. So if you're looking at like habit trackers and planners and accountability buddies, what I want you to know is that that's not going to actually ever create habit change. The very first thing we have to know, step one, is where your habits came from. And to answer that question, I want all of you listening to really think about what was the feeling that I was trying to create with this habit, or what was the feeling that I was trying to avoid. So it's always going to be one of those two because humans are driven by the motivational triad. We seek pleasure and we avoid pain. So the habit of overeating for me came because I was trying to avoid stress in the moment and I was seeking relaxation. Or with work productivity, I was trying to seek pride and I was trying to avoid inadequacy, right? So we can really start to plug in what feeling was I trying to create? What feeling was I trying to avoid? And step one is really important to get super clear. You can write down what are all of the habits that I have and the ones that especially are creating an unwanted result, and really write down a list of feelings that you have been wanting for yourself and a list of feelings that you have been avoiding. And I want to put a little caveat here for this because I think especially if you are someone that is a perfectionist or you really want A+ work or you avoid imperfection, there are some habits that you have that you might not realize are getting in your way. So if you find yourself overworking, overlearning, like over consuming and researching, this is going to be a habit that's going to create results that are results that you don't want. So that was step one, is really getting clear on the feeling that created your habit to begin with. Step two is what I call getting scientific. So again, I work with high achievers, I work with women. This is something that I think is really clear for women. Gets really scientific. If you kept that habit, we're not going to the land of, imagination and rainbows and daisies. We're going to be practical, scientific. If you kept that habit, what is the actual result you would create? So for me, if I overate the Dorito dinner every single night, if I had that third glass of wine every single night, if I kept scrolling my phone every night, if I kept second guessing my emails, if I kept planning and planning and planning and consuming, what would the actual outcome be? Now, the key here is when you're answering this question, you have to remember the lens has to be scientific, which means curious. Don't let yourself go to judgment and blame. Just catch that. Come back. Remember the mitt. We're catching it softly. Get really curious like a scientist would. If I kept these parameters exactly as they are, what's my hypothesis, right? What would my outcome actually be? And when you do this, when you get scientific, what we're doing is we're bringing our more evolved prefrontal cortex into the conversation. We're not being driven by our primitive brain anymore, right? The fight, flight, the one that wants pleasure and avoiding pain. We want to bring in our prefrontal cortex. So what we want to do is, what is the actual result? And let's look at the evidence. So look back at your last month. Look back at your last week or your last year. You can zoom in and zoom out. If I looked at the actual result, what was the actual outcome? And then you get to really see the impact of keeping the habit. And I think sometimes when we get really clear on this, like, for example, I think with food, sometimes I'll say, you know what, I'm doing really well. I've lost a couple of pounds. It's just a little bit. Let me just have my Dorito dinner tonight. It's just a little bit. Our brain, because she's, again, so driven by our primitive reflexes, she'll try to go back to old habits. We want to use this as an opportunity to see, oh, remember, this is just that old habit that creates that actual result, right? We want to come back using scientific, evidence-based results that we've created for ourselves. And then the third step is, how do you create new habits? So the first one was, we have to get really clear in what we were feeling that created the habit to begin with. The second one is, if you kept that habit, what is the actual result you create? And then the third one is actually being what I call a simple visionary. And by simple visionary, what this means is, go to the end. What is the result you want? So for me, it was 60 pounds down. I want to lose 60 pounds. And also, I want to do it in a way that feels forever, feels sustainable, in a way that I love, right? So it's not just the number on the scale, it's the lived experience of me losing weight. And if I had to pick just one needle mover, this is going to be hard if you're a high achieving, if you're an overachiever, you want to put 10 needle movers on there. I highly recommend you stick with one needle mover that would take me the farthest. So for me, that was to stop eating past comfortable. That was the very first needle mover. If I just ate to the point of my personal comfort, so my body felt nice and light, just that one needle mover, I started losing so much weight. I don't have to overburden my plan, just one needle mover. Put that needle mover on your calendar and actually start evaluating it. So you have to take consistent action on your one needle mover. And the evaluation piece of it is actually having regular intervals where you're checking in. Is it working? Is it not working? If it's not working, what might I tweak? It might be imperfect, right? So I'm not going to quit. I'm going to tweak. So I think that when we start to repeat this with every habit, you start to not only change habits, but you start to absolutely change results.
So good. Dr. Priyanka, let's end with a tip to encourage women who are in the arena fighting for the life that they want.
I think that the biggest thing is to start being on your own side. So often I feel like for women, we're sitting on opposite sides of the table with ourselves, and it creates this contentious relationship that is so not necessary, right? So I want all of us to know we can come back be on the same side of the table, because you're going to feel so much better. This is totally doable for you.
And how can we connect with you?
So you can find me over at the Unstoppable Mom Brain, basically anywhere on the internet. That's my website. That's my podcast. If you enjoy the stuff that I was saying on today's show, then I absolutely recommend you come to the Unstoppable Mom Brain podcast. I share a lot of tips, strategies, mindsets. It's where I'll tell you if I often do free trainings, and I have a lot of webinars and things like that. So you'll hear about that all over on the Unstoppable Mom Brain podcast.
Thank you so much, Dr. Priyanka. You've been such a badass, and I've enjoyed hearing your story.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure being here.
And with that, we'll end our show. To all the badass women out there staying in the arena, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, own it and get after it. Okay, so 6 takeaways from this episode with Dr. Priyanka. First, it's common for words are hard. It's common for high-achieving women to feel ordinary and strive for external validation. However, being a badass comes from challenging our perspective of how we think about ourselves. Number 2, it's possible to lose weight without counting calories and instead using our mind and body skills and techniques. Number 3, feeling more powerful can lead to positive changes in various areas of life, including eating habits and overall well-being. Identify the difference between feeling confident and feeling powerful. Sometimes we may feel confident in certain areas of our lives, but not powerful. It's important to recognize where we feel powerful or where we feel powerless and why. Number 4, reclaim your power by taking responsibility for areas that may have been or where you may have been abdicating it. For example, instead of blaming your schedule, your partner, or your child for feeling powerless, take ownership of your feelings and look for ways that you can regain control. Number 5, let go of the need to control everything. Sometimes we think that if we can control our time, our calendar, our partner, or child, we will feel powerful. But the truth is, we cannot control everything. Instead, focus on what you can control and let go of what you can't. And number 6, recognize the social rules and expectations that may be holding you back. You may have been taught to fall in line, follow the rules, and not be too big or too loud. These societal expectations may be limiting your sense of power as an adult. So recognize these rules and question whether they are in your best interest. Okay, with that, we'll end our show. And excuse me, I still have this COVID thing that just wants to linger on. I hope that you have a good Mother's Day or that you had a good Mother's Day and really got a chance to celebrate you and just take time. And even if you are not a mother, then still use that day, use this time, this week to just incorporate some self-care into your life. Make sure tune in on Thursday because you'll hear 3 reasons why Dr. Priyanka is so badass.
Now that you've listened to this episode of Ordinary to Badass, we want to hear from you. Go to our website, ordinarytobadass.com/podcast, and submit your own experience on how you took your life from ordinary to badass and get the chance to be on a future spotlight episode of the show. That's ordinarytobadass.com/podcast. While you're waiting for the next episode of the show, wipe off the sweat, dust off the dirt, and get back in the arena.